Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. Our religion is the Word of God. We are peaceful and we love everyone equally. The hangman wrapped the noose around the pastor's own son as the man himself watched with cold eyes, observing with a sick satisfaction as his own flesh and blood was killed for the crime of loving in a different way. The Bridge by User Unknown. This is or was going to be short, but the memory sprung into my mind a couple days back and I thought it'd be worth sharing. I live in North Wales, UK. For anyone who's had the pleasure of visiting, it truly is a beautiful place to live, though for an adolescent boy, it certainly lacks in things to do. As a result, my friends and I would often find ourselves mindlessly exploring areas of countryside and coastline. Despite it being quite sparsely populated in comparison to the closest cities, there is a dual carriageway running right along the coast from Wales into England. Also, train tracks run alongside the road for most of its course, occasionally passing overhead via a small cement bridge. Anyway, there was one night a few years ago when about 4 of us randomly decided to try and explore the inside of one of these bridges, as one of the group had observed a manhole cover nearby, which we believed to be the entrance. On closer inspection, we discovered that several tools would be required in order to gain entry. We returned with the necessary equipment and proceeded to unbolt the cover. This had to be done stealthily as the train track was right beside us. Not close enough to be any danger, but definitely a significantly small distance to cause panic for any train driver. And panic usually means police. It wasn't long before we removed the heavy steel disc and had started descending the ladder down into the structure. Once we had all safely reached the bottom, we decided to progress into the other side. At this point, we were totally confined into the narrow space that leads into the main area. If you're confused as to what the hell this bridge is supposed to be, you probably should be, because it was rather peculiar. I mean, I would never have known there was even inside had we not noticed the manhole. So, as we squeezed and crouched and at one point scraped along our bellies to the other side of the structure, there was a growing sense of claustrophobia between us. The distance from end to the other is surprisingly long, but by the halfway point you could look down through the narrow gap onto the motorway below. This was actually pretty cool, which helped keep us calm in a strange way. At this point, apart from the mild discomfort and confinement, we were still just a group of guys on an adventure. This was about to change dramatically. No more than a few meters beyond the hallway, which we could tell due to the symmetry of the passageway through the bridge, one of us claimed they could see objects in the distance at the far side. Slightly hesitantly, we agreed to investigate. Bad move. I reached the end first, and let me tell you, I never felt the same sense of dread before or since. In front of me was a single fold-away chair positioned facing a wall. On the wall was a partially torn page from a newspaper or a magazine, showing a fully naked lady in an erotic position. The reason I don't just refer to it as porn is because something was different about it. I can't put my finger on it, but it seemed more sinister than sexy, if that makes any sense. More disturbingly, the eyes of the woman on display had been cut from the page, removed with precision, not just hastily ripped off. The scene that lay before us had rendered us completely speechless, and an overpowering sense of panic could be felt collectively. That was when we found the condom. The hideous, gut-wrenching, blood-drenched condom. Needless to say, we got the fuck out of there as fast as humanly possible, smashing our knees and shins against the sharp cement edges that lined the path to the ladder by which we had entered. Of course, we all prayed to God that the manhole hadn't been resealed, as it was impossible to tell until we reached the ladder itself. Thankfully, the exit route was clear, and we promptly dashed as far away as our legs could carry us. I'm sure this ending comes as a disappointment to some of you listening to this, as we, luckily, never bumped into the twisted individual who sits in that chair. But I must stress how radically out of norm this was given where I live. The reason I mentioned the population earlier was with purpose. There is easily enough people here to escape the realm of crazy country folk, yet nowhere near enough people to have someone clearly lose grip on society without someone taking notice. For example, there was literally only one homeless man who everyone in the area knew and grew fond of, eventually resulting in a mass gathering at his funeral when he passed away. I sometimes think, though not recently, as I had more or less forgotten about that night entirely, about the person who climbs down into that bridge and navigates through the darkness to sit facing a wall and do God knows what that ends up with a condom full of blood. You honestly couldn't envision a more surreal situation. It has just come to my realization that what we unearthed that night has not been uttered to another soul. As a naive teenager, it was a type of thing you just want to forget. But thinking about it, we probably should have let the police or at least someone know about what was down there, because it wasn't the doing of a healthy-minded individual. So, there you have it. Apologies for the length. I got a little carried away as it's my first Let's Not Meet post, and I wanted to make the reading experience as similar as reality as I could. Now I'm a few years older and hopefully a bit braver, and I'm considering going down there again, accompanied of course, to see what fucked up shit might be waiting. This could well happen in the next couple of days, and rest assured I will 100% post an update as I currently have no job, so time is plentiful. Edit. As promised, here are the photos from the return visit. We went early in the evening, so there was still plenty of light. As a result, I have decided to use a simple filter on most of the outdoor shots, simply to reduce the light and give it the eeriness it deserves. Unfortunately, I hadn't accurately conveyed my plans to those accompanying me, and they had presumed I just wanted to check out the small area before the entrance to the passageway, as they had been there before. When I expressed my wishes to navigate through the bridge, they instantly noped the fuck out of there. As you can imagine, I was massively disappointed. I hope to go back soon with a different bunch of guys, but I can't promise when. Edit 2. Here are the pictures taken from last night's return to the bridge. This will be the last time I veg you down there. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy. Early yesterday evening, a friend and I decided to embark on a revisit to the awful place in the hopes of finding some remnants of the twisted scene that had been stumbled upon several years ago. We were not disappointed. If anything, it was even worse than what I had imagined. Aside from what you will see in the photos, the general environment within the bridge structure is practically uninhabitable, as it bloody well should be, and stomach-turning to say the least. The amount of dust in the passageway is actually quite unbearable, but that is nothing compared to the constant stench that must be endured. Also, the heat didn't help the situation either. I won't ramble on, but I must express how vulnerable you feel when navigating through the tunnels. Even with two of us, both carrying appropriate weaponry, the sense of evil was overpowering. The tension is amplified tenfold by the fact that, had we encountered someone or something, the layout of the structure and the multiple tight squeezings mean a safe, speedy exit is nigh on impossible. It truly is a hellhole. Without further ado, here is what lies at the bridge. Enjoy. I had forgotten the passageway don't actually run all the way through the structure. It is sealed off at the midway point, so the slight dip above the supporting pillar is where the sinisterness took place. This makes me wonder, is there anything untowards on the other side? The entrance, which unnerving was already open. You can also see the train tracks immediately to the right. The descent. If you look closely, you can see my friend's left hand still gripping a rung. The rest of him disappeared into the darkness. This is the small area before you enter the passageways. Even in daylight, it's virtually pitch black. Very creepy. I had to use a flash to capture this one. None of us realized there was even graffiti on the wall until looking at this photo. And here is the start of one of the 3 passageways that leads to the middle of the bridge. Creepy as hell. When you are staring down the passageway, it's virtually complete darkness. You can see your hand in front of your face. Another entrance, I haven't used any filters on this one, so you can see exactly what it looks like. Again, flash had to be used. To give you an idea of the size, you would definitely have to squeeze through this one on your stomach. It wouldn't be a super tight squeeze, but it wouldn't be possible to crouch. Also, the slight rising surface you can see just through the hole is an indicator what the rest of the passage leading to the dip looks like. Random raising surfaces and narrow gaps, making it impossible to stand up. On the way out, unfortunately, to be continued. The bridge revisited. Instantly, we came across what appeared to be a makeshift bed. The sheets accompanying the foam suggest it would have been used to sleep on. Going further into the passageway, it opens up slightly. I included this to demonstrate the amount of dust particles in the air. It was quite a pain to get any clear photos from any sort of distance other than close-ups. This is a broken padlock that I believe would have originally secured the entry, not even a third of the way through the bridge at this point. A used candle. Random pieces of rope. Now this is where things get a bit disgusting. That liquid definitely wasn't milk. That's a standard milk container in the UK. And here was the first confirmation that the intense smell we were experiencing was in fact human feces. The brown substance on the paper was undeniable. This was a second, more damning confirmation. And a bag with loads of human feces. This nearly made us vomit. Just as we approached the end of the room, we stumbled upon this disconcerting tape. It reads, "Crime scene, do not enter." The narrow entrance to the final opening, at this stage even with 2 powerful torches, or flashlights on the other side of the world. You honestly could not see if there was anyone/anything in the end room. This made for a particularly nerving decision to proceed. Here you can see how tight this section is. Not fun. The entrance to the end room, taken with no flash to get an idea what this may have looked like in the candlelight, which we presume must have been the light source for this sick individual. Truly the stuff of nightmares. All of the following images were taken inside this room. Here goes nothing. Literally the first thing I see after squeezing into the end of the room is a knife. Oh shit. Next up is the raunchy image. You may not be able to see it properly, but the vagina area has been burnt through with a cigarette. It's only a small hole, hence you may struggle to see, but very strange nonetheless. Also, when I was grabbing these images, this one didn't load properly. I had to make a screenshot, so it's even lower resolution than it should be. More magazine pages on the floor. You can tell from the black sticky tape they would have once been stuck to the wall. Also, I did have to censor these photos cause YouTube will not like it. A random pile of items, including scissors, tape, and a brush of some sort. A rather large nail. This could simply have been part of the structure at one point, but after closer inspections of the surrounding area, it did seem to be an anomaly. This candle has been melted into place onto the wall. I imagine it would have been the main light source. The only remaining page still attached to the wall. This, unfortunately, is not the image I described in the original post. If you zoom in, the top of the page has a date from 1997, suggesting this stuff has been here for a long time. And here it is, folks, the Devil's Chair. There was so much dust in the area that I simply couldn't get a decent flash shot. Another attempt here, you can see a bundle of items to the left and a blanket of some sort to the right. We searched thoroughly, but rather worryingly, the blood-soaked condom was nowhere to be found. This was strange, given the other items had remained. This is a god-awful place to be. This is what you see if the chair was facing the other way around. You can see how the steps open up so you could stand up. And also, it would be easy for someone to hide in waiting in this area. The same image, just using torchlight to give you an idea of how dark this would have been, even with candles. A bit of proof, if you will, that this trip actually took place. Nobility Scouted 2012. Very glad to be leaving. The final shot I took from inside the structure, just before the exit ladder. And this was the very lovely view that greeted us as we popped our heads out. I thought I would include this as it did well to brighten our mood, and hopefully will do the same for you. Thank you all for listening and being patient whilst I found the time to make the return visit. Hope you enjoyed it. A quick side note from me, 242. This was actually posted 13 years ago, and it was just a really good story. I wanted to tell it. The user has deleted their Reddit account, so I don't know if Nobility Scooter was their user account back then or not. I actually had to use the Wayback Machine just to get these photos, and not all of them worked perfectly. Really, it was just the one and everything else would load up, but every once in a while a different photo would show up after I had copied it. Very bizarre. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this story, and I know it was a bit of a long one. All the links are going to be on my website, since YouTube really doesn't like explicit photos, and I really don't want to link to them either. You will probably have to use the Wayback Machine if you want to look at them as well. Broken and bleeding, but incredibly still alive, I considered my survival a miracle, given I'd been sucked up and subsequently launched by an immensely powerful tornado. However, laying in triage afterwards, I began to notice portions of my skin turning black as the putrid smell of rot filled my nostrils. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. First of all, if you have a story you'd like me to narrate, whether true or fictional, you can send it to me 3 different ways. Either my website, my subreddit, or through email. All the links are down below for easy access. Second of all, I'd like to thank the writers who let me read these stories. And of course, I do hope you enjoyed that really long one about the bridge and all the oddities in it. Truly didn't think it was going to be a 20-minute story when I first started reading it. But then once I saw the captions to the photos, I knew I was doubling the time just for these pictures alone. I'm really sad that the user ended up deleting their Reddit account, because I would love to know if they ever found anything else out. But sometimes the mystery is just as fun, and I hope you enjoyed all the pictures and all the story behind it. Enjoyed this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And of course, I would absolutely love a comment. Tell me what you thought, what kind of stories you like in the future, anything like that, and whatever you think of as well. If you're listening on the podcast, please leave a review and a comment if you're able to. If you'd like to help this channel grow, please share it with anyone who might enjoy it. It helps quite a bit. If you'd like to help in a more financial way, like the lovely people on screen right now, you can join my Patreon or memberships. And I would like to thank Grim in Darkness, which I actually have narrated some of their stories, and Bobo Jenkins. Thank you both for your support. If you'd like to do more of a one-time thing, I do have super thanks on YouTube, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee. As always, none of this will ever be expected, just always appreciated. And I like to give shoutouts when I can. As always, guys, thank you for watching and listening. It always has and always will mean the world to me. I just like narrating these stories for you. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.